Okay.
Emma, do you need me to hold hands? Yes.
Bruh.
Okay, it's a status update.
Oh my god, this is crazy.
Oh my Dude, I got it to Stanford. Oh my god! I got it to Stanford. Oh my god! Oh my god! So that clip that you guys just saw of me was me getting accepted into Stanford back in December, and it was just a really cool experience. While I was applying to Stanford in the fall and like writing all of my essays, I watched a ton of these videos of kids reading their Common App essay, and I always found it really helpful, and I thought it was always pretty interesting to hear other people's. So I figured since I got accepted, it would be a cool time to show mine. Unfortunately, I only ended up applying to like 3 schools, so I never got to make like the opening my college decisions video like compilation that like I've also spent a lot of time watching online. But yeah, regardless, this was one of the videos that I've always watched, so I just wanted to post mine on YouTube to see if anyone else found mine helpful. And if you watch my entire video and you like my essay, after I read the essay, I will give you my personal tips on what I thought was the best way to go about coming up with an idea for writing my Common App essay and like all the other tips that I have. So before I begin reading my Common App essay, just really quickly, I'll throw up my stats. I actually haven't read this in a couple months, I don't think, so it's going to be interesting. The title the title of the Google Doc with like my final like draft of my Common App essay is called Stanford, Please Let Me In. It is the 15th draft that I wrote. So, as I stare into the empty abyss on late night drives or at the mountain of homework I have As I stare into the you can really tell I have not practiced reading this. As I stare into the empty abyss on late night drives or at the mountain of homework I should have started weeks ago, a single question stares back at me. Why? Last year, failing to answer this question, I was left wandering aimlessly. The weight of my 6 AP classes hit me like an existential truck. School had become a series of hoops that required all of my effort to jump through, and as I cleared the hoops, I was met with more, with no end in sight. As I grew tired, moving through took more and more willpower, until eventually, wondering why I was jumping at all, I quit jumping altogether. My attendance record became marked with late arrivals and absences as my grades began declining while I spent my time rotting in front of my computer, mindlessly watching Netflix before escaping into a dull slumber. Sleepwalking through life, I senselessly chased instant gratification. Despite this, there are moments I snapped out of this daze and eagerly engaged with the world around me. During lunch, my friends and I discussed everything from the viability of Andrew Yang's universal basic income to the infinite regression argument for God to how decriminalizing drugs in Portugal solved its drug crisis. These discussions ignited a curiosity in me that never left. Without realizing, seeking answers to these questions helped me dig myself out of the nihilistic hole I found myself trapped in. The more I sought answers, the more I found questions. These questions guided me to worlds I had yet to explore. Philosophy, astrophysics, anthropology. In these worlds, I began finding answers to why. From philosophy, I contemplated Nietzsche's journey to becoming an Ubermensch, Camus' vision of a happy Sisyphus, and Kierkegaard's push for a leap of faith. I learned from people who found meaning in a world that did not hand them one. From astrophysics, I explored the reaches of the universe with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I still get chills as I imagine him whispering in my ear that I am made of stars and that I am inextricably linked to the universe because the universe lies within me. From anthropology, Dr. Yuval Harari led me through the human timeline, from building tools to creating languages to organizing societies. I was reminded of the infinite potential that lies within being human. Learning instilled in me a sense of purpose, and as I learned to see the world from different perspectives, I developed an insatiable hunger to seek out more worlds unknown to me. And while I continued learning, the hoops that I jumped through at school slowly transformed into lenses that I used to view the world. I realized calculus was not about finding the derivative of arbitrary equations, but rather about deepening our understanding of the universe, from helping construct economic models to revealing the movement of planets. Schools became far more than force-feeding myself isolated sets of facts. I began leaving classes eager to see how those ideas interacted with the world. Moving into the future, the challenges I tackle no longer revolve around me. My own existential angst takes a backseat to challenges like helping the millions who are losing their jobs to automation or bringing together a country wrought with tribalism. While I still do not know which problems I will dedicate my life to answering, I know that the ability to see the world in different ways and my search for knowledge will aid me along my journey. So now, as I stare at the night sky, I do not see an empty abyss. I see an endless universe, one full of stars, black holes, and supernovas. I think of all the worlds I've explored and consider the galaxies left untouched. A single thought flashes across my mind like a shooting star. You do not know what you do not know. So I explore. Oh God. I'm not, okay. So that was the first time I like read that all the way through in a couple months. And there's a lot of things that I would change now. That's tough. But anyways, that was completely genuine. Like, my junior year was really, really rough for me. I mean, like, in terms of like existential angst and like just being completely lost, I don't think I've ever been as lost as I was junior year. Like, I remember like very specifically, school started at 7:45, and I remember one day I woke up at 7:15, and if I like really busted my butt, I could get to school on time. But I remember thinking, oh, I'm gonna be late probably, so like I think I'm just gonna sleep in, and we'll figure it out when I wake up. I fell back asleep, and I woke up at 2:45, like when school ends. So I literally, like, because I was so lazy, just slept through an entire school day. That was not one of my proudest moments. I would constantly go into school every single day, complaining to my English teacher about how much I hated school. I'd walk into AB Chem and all of my friends and even like my chemistry teacher would be like, oh wow, Alex, it's so nice of you to show up today. Which are probably not good signs of how I was doing, like just mental health wise, but I was just like really, really lost. Like, I did not know at all what I was doing. So if you've made it this far into the video and you are writing your Common App essay this year, I will share with you my tips on how to make a better Common App essay. My first tip is to understand that writing a good Common App essay takes time. Like, especially for Stanford's application, if you have to write all the supplementals, you're gonna have to write a lot of different essays. And I know kids that like wrote all the supplemental essays and the Common App essay in like a day. Like, I think I've heard people do that in passing. I was not at all one of those kids. I literally don't think I've ever worked as hard or as consistently on something as I have like my Common App essay. So my senior year, I had like a study hall, which was like just an hour of just do your homework every single day. Every single day, I would pull up in this room with like one other person, and I would just write for an hour or revise for an hour, or like just sit and try to come up with ideas for an hour. I mentioned this earlier, but I wrote 15 drafts to my Common App essay. I came up with 5 or 6 different ideas, and then I edited and revised each of those ideas like 2 or 3 times before I realized that this idea is garbage. So I just scrapped like the entire essay, and I ended up with this like 15 drafts later. It probably took me about 2 months of like consistent effort to write this essay. So my second piece of advice is to know how you want to come across in your essay. In my Stanford supplemental essays, I tried to come off as like a lot funnier, and I try to come off as a lot more relaxed and chill. Like, you just gotta make sure that you portray yourself as a person that you think they would like to be at that college. And so put a lot of thought into how you wanna come across. For me, it was like really hard to figure out how I wanted to portray myself to the admissions officer, because like, you know, I'm just like so complex. I have so many layers, you know, like an onion. But the thing that really helped me was I asked my friends and my teachers who really knew me, like, how would you describe me? They told me that the thing that stood out most for them was the fact that I really, really like to learn. And I like took that idea and I was like, how did I come to that like conclusion in my life? Like, how did, like, what narrative kind of just built up my love for learning? And I thought about it, and I kind of like reverse engineered like my Common App essay, and like it was still completely genuine. Everything that happened was 100% true. If you are really struggling to come up with ideas, I would recommend you try that. So my third tip is to be very realistic about how good your essay was. You need to have a realistic understanding of how good your essay is and how good it needs to be in order to get into like these schools that you want to get into. And like, so I recommend please ask for help. Like, get people to read your Common App essay and make sure that these people know what kind of essays get into like these top colleges, so they can tell you whether or not your essay is up to par. I recommend asking your English teacher, and you need to hope that these people will be brutally honest with you, because if you're trying to get into like Harvard or Yale or Stanford, like, your essays probably need to be really good, and you need people to tell you very bluntly that your essays aren't good enough. And like, there is hundreds of videos online of people reading their Common App essay. Watch those and make sure that yours are as good, or like, you want your essay to be better than theirs. So like, you should just assume that in every aspect they're better than you, and that the only possible thing you could do to get into like the college you want is to write an amazing essay that's way better than theirs. And that mentality will probably help you cultivate your essay and like constantly refine it until it's like actually just like a masterpiece. Watch all the YouTube videos out there about like what cliche essays are. Don't write about like a cliche topic. Look up like the most common mistakes. Like, you can't find a video on YouTube that will tell you what to write your essay about, but you can find hundreds and thousands of videos about what not to write your essay about. Like, there are so many common mistakes that you should not be making. So that was my Common App essay. I really hope you enjoyed that, and I hope those tips helped you. I'm sorry that they weren't the best. And I will be posting another video of my supplemental essays really soon, and I actually think that video will be a lot more fun. I really enjoyed writing the Stanford supplemental essays. Yeah.